I haven't been able to express this enough, but I absolutely love the LittleBigPlanet series, like, a lot. I grew up with this series. In fact, it was one of the first series I ever considered myself a true fan of. Yes, even before my worst nightmare, Sonic T Hedgehog. I played LittleBigPlanet 2 to death. In fact, the other day I was cleaning my room and I found my original copy of the game I had when I was a kid, and well, I'm just gonna assume the disc was well used, but I don't really know how to tell, so you just gotta trust me on this. I played the game a lot. For a long time, I would say that Sackboy was almost like a mascot for PlayStation, even though I'm pretty sure he was never officially declared as the mascot for PlayStation. During the PlayStation 3 generation, he was definitely the face of the company in everyone's minds. But sadly, as the PlayStation 3 generation came to an end and gradually switched to the PlayStation 4, the LittleBigPlanet series kind of went along with it. Sure, LittleBigPlanet 3 released pretty early on in the PlayStation 4's life, but it also released for the PlayStation 3 anyway, and after that the series went pretty much dormant. Servers for the older games gradually shut down, and eventually in 2024, the final remaining servers for LittleBigPlanet 3 were taken down, and with that came the figurative death of the series, because there was no longer any user-generated content to keep people coming back. And I mean, sure, with the launch of the PlayStation 5, we got Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which was a great little 3D platform, but it also felt like it was almost trying to erase the LittleBigPlanet series in a way by solely focusing on the character you play and customize in the game, Sackboy. Read the title. And not to toot my own horn, but if you do want a more detailed look at the old LittleBigPlanet games, I would say I did a pretty good job, so I'll link that. And even in more recent LittleBigPlanet news, like the YouTube's figure released a while ago, it's just titled Sackboy, so it's like we're seeing LittleBigPlanet erasure in real time. And it's also really telling that the only news we've received about LittleBigPlanet for years outside of the removal of servers was a cool figurine that released by YouTube's, and I tried messaging them for a free figure, but I don't think they like me. I remember being so starved for anything LittleBigPlanet related that when I watched Gran Turismo in theaters, terrible f***ing movie by the way, and saw Sackboy in the PlayStation intro at the start, I freaked out. This is what you're doing to us, Sony, or maybe that's just me. But all this has me wondering if there's a reason why it almost felt like overnight Sony got rid of the LittleBigPlanet series. Maybe it was a product of the time, or simply wouldn't be anywhere near as successful as it was today. And my answer to that is, keep watching the video, asshole. But before we continue, this video is sponsored by my social media. Now, it's no secret I don't do a whole lot of community stuff here on my YouTube page, and that's because it's all saved for the social media. Oh boy. To keep up with the channel, the true best way is to follow my socials like Twitter, X, the name we all use, and Instagram. And if you want to interact with the community, please join the Discord Coil Cord where you can see some general behind the scenes stuff as well as see all the cool stuff I have to say. So really please, to stay up to date with the Coil Industrial Complex, please check out the socials which will be linked in the description, and with that being said, on to the rest of the video. First, I think it's important to note the state of the gaming industry in 2008 when the original LittleBigPlanet released. 2008 was really the start of dark, gritty games going into the mainstream, as now consoles were more than capable of portraying dark, realistic, gritty environments, so game publishers took advantage of this, and many of the most popular games were dark and gritty with guns. Gritty. This was when Call of Duty became popular in the mainstream, along with games like Fallout 3, Left 4 Dead, Grand Theft Auto 4, I don't really know if that one counts, releasing at this time, and it was clear the gaming industry was focusing a lot more on mature audiences than before. I mean, even companies like Nintendo couldn't keep away from this. Smash Bros. Brawl had a big fat T for tits rating on it. So when Media Molecule released LittleBigPlanet, it definitely stood out in the game lineups at the time for being new, colorful, and fun. We were very devoid at the time. And this brings me to my next topic here. Why was LittleBigPlanet successful? It was a good game. That's it. Now, it's obviously not that simple, but I do think the key to success with this game was the main gimmick being able to that you could create your own levels and do essentially whatever the hell you wanted. And as a little kid, this was a dream come true for me, and while I was never very good at making levels, I played hundreds, if not thousands, of community-made levels, and the freedom this game gives you, it allowed people to make some really good stuff. And this gameplay style was able to stay afloat for years, but now if we look at the gaming industry today, it is completely different from how it was back in 2008. It's a lot harder to make a distinct statement about the current state of gaming today compared to back in 2008, because the truth is, with how much gaming has grown and will continue to, there will never be one trend the gaming industry follows to a T. Because today you have the Battle Royale genre, live service games, co-op, platformers, open world games, and mixes between them all, and they're all very popular, so how would LittleBigPlanet stand out today? And I actually think it's quite simple. Lean into the community creation aspect. Community content in games is pretty much a given in any online-focused game. You have Minecraft, Fortnite creative mode, and just Roblox as a whole. And while I wouldn't say that LittleBigPlanet is the reason why community content in games is so popular now, I think it was a natural development the game industry was leading to and would have happened either way, but you can still see the influence LittleBigPlanet has. Like, look at Mario Maker. I look at that as a more refined style of the old LittleBigPlanet games, at the cost of the levels being a little bit more basic, and I don't think that we would have Mario Maker in the state we see it today if it weren't for LittleBigPlanet as kind of weird as that is to say. In fact, I actually think that right now would be a great time to release a new LittleBigPlanet game because it could try to compete with Mario Maker and other community-focused games and do it better because LittleBigPlanet is obviously the best game ever made. But have you noticed that I've been ignoring one of the most glaring issues with making a new LittleBigPlanet game? I don't know if you knew this, but
PlayStation has a new mascot.
I love Astrobot. In fact, I know I'll get crucified for saying this, but I think as a mascot, Astrobot works 10 times better than Sackboy, especially with the direction Sony's going with the PlayStation 5 generation. I mean, he looks like a little PlayStation 5 robot. But many people in the LittleBigPlanet community seem to actually despise Astrobot because they see him as a replacement for Sackboy, but like, he may have replaced Sackboy as Sony's big family-friendly IP, but Astrobot was never really meant to be a PlayStation mascot, and neither was Sackboy. Astrobot was made to be a mascot in tech demo for the PlayStation VR, and everyone just loved him, so I'm sorry to tell you guys, but shifting the blame to the poor robot is not gonna bring Sackboy back. And I want you to just look at this little robot in the eyes and tell me you have any real hatred in your heart for him, because even me as a #1 Sackboy defender, I love this guy. So there's an argument to be made that why would Sony make a LittleBigPlanet game when they could just reuse the ideas for a newer, more marketable game like Astrobot, but I don't really think this is true at all. The fundamentals of both of these series are completely different. LittleBigPlanet is built on community-made content and it being added upon after its release, and Astrobot is about pre-made levels with explorative and specific gameplay gimmicks focused on at each level. Now, I'm not going to pretend like there's not any overlap between these series, especially with Sackboy: A Big Adventure, but let's not pretend like these guys can't coexist. I mean, I think they would be friends. I think the main issue is that Sony today focuses a lot more on story-driven games with a relatively mature theme, so they don't exactly want to have two big franchises with bubbly kids mascots, but again, I don't really see that as much of an issue. And no, I'm not just saying that as a big Nintendo Sonic game garbage fanboy, even though I can see where you got that thought. Hear me out. Series such as God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and Horizon have grown so much in the last few years, and I would say that those games have more than eclipsed both Astrobot and LittleBigPlanet's popularity, even in their peaks. And Sony also publishes games like the new Spider-Man games, Concord, that example, and Helldivers, so they have enough stuff on their plate. But given all these factors, I think it's more than fair enough to say that LittleBigPlanet could easily survive in today's market. In fact, I think given the right marketing, it could do even better. LittleBigPlanet, while of course not being very relevant today because there hasn't been a game released in years, still has a spot in today's culture. I see LittleBigPlanet referenced in so many things on the internet today, whether it be one of those stupid, you didn't grow up unless you experienced these, and LittleBigPlanet is there, but I think it's fair enough to say that most kids nowadays have at least seen the face of Sackboy and could probably even name him by name. As well as seeing Sackboy's face in Instagram shitposts and hearing the very recognizable music in the background of video essays about stuff you don't care about.
Hey.
And as much as it may not feel like it, LittleBigPlanet is still occasionally referenced by Sony. Sackboy made a cameo in the recent Astrobot game and appears in the PlayStation intro during specific broadcasts. He even made a little cameo in the Gran Turismo movie at the start, and as I mentioned, horrible fucking movie, but I mean, Sackboy made his cinematic debut in like a millisecond, so hooray! I mean, even in Breaking Bad, Jesse owns a copy of LittleBigPlanet 2. This is why I love Jesse. He'll never be better than Saul, but he owns fucking LittleBigPlanet 2. That's awesome.
That's why he's the GOAT! Yo, Gatorade me, bitch.
So even if you're like 7 and have no idea who this dude is, if a new game was released, there's a good chance you would at least recognize his face from something. Although I think if a 7-year-old has seen Breaking Bad, there may be another issue there, but I'm not a parent, so do whatever you want with your kids. Don't take that the wrong way. But with all this, it begs the question, what would a new LittleBigPlanet game look like? And I think that's a simple question, a light reboot. Now, in the gaming industry, a reboot may strike a range of emotions in the hearts of many. Sonic 06 was kind of like a reboot, while it still referenced the lore from the other games. I don't really know what was up with that, and games like God of War 2018 and Doom 2016 were beyond successful, so kind of a mixed bag here. And it's not like the lore, not that there's much anyway, needs to be removed. It just needs to be more simple for him to come back. It was already simple in the first place, so this shouldn't be a huge issue. What I mean for a reboot of the LittleBigPlanet series is more in the gameplay, as it needs to start from scratch and add more modern mechanics. And I mean, of course it would still be a community-focused game, because I just don't think you could take that away from the series. Ignore that. But here's what I think the new gimmick should be. 3D. Now hear me out. I know the prospect of allowing people to make fully 3D levels in a level editor seems horrible, but I truly think that if it's implemented well, this could work almost as simple as a 2D game platformer maker, just with a little bit more room to find stuff. And now for the main game made by Sony, the meat and potatoes of the LittleBigPlanet series, here's my idea. And I also need you to hear me out for this one. Open world. Now, I get it, I am beyond tired of seeing open world games too, but I think with the theme of LittleBigPlanet, it could work perfectly. Say you're in an arts and crafts world and everything around you is made out of arts and crafts. It doesn't need to be bound by the laws of reality because who the hell cares? You could just have a whole section of the map dedicated to googly eyes and no one would bat an eye. And I just think that the open world would fit the series well. I mean, it's a little big planet. Let us explore a planet. I was really creative when I thought of that one. Now, if you can't tell, I am very passionate about this series, and believe it or not all of it relies on nostalgia. Only most of it. I mean, we haven't gotten a proper game in like 11 years. Honestly, I just want the series to be in the public eye again, and as long as there's passion behind it, I would take almost anything. Almost. To make it clear, I do not want a battle royale, strictly co-op, racing. I want it to be an actual game, but Sackboy in Fortnite would be pretty cool.